Hello everyone, Robert here from European Watch Company in Boston. And today I thought we would talk about the Omega Speedmaster. Again, another one of those iconic watches that seems to have always been there and is something that has prevailed since its original introduction back in the late 50s. And one of my favorite questions to ask when we look at something like this ultimately is, who cares? Why is the Speedmaster so important? Why has it retained this status in the watchmaking world of being such an icon to all of us? Is it because it went to the moon? Is it simply that perseverance of design? What is it about the Omega Speedmaster? So I do have three of them here in front of me today. Obviously, we do have a standard Speedy Pro, and this is a version that we kind of first saw realized in the 1960s. And this has stayed pretty true through to today, other than some minor upgrades. It is a 42 millimeter case. It's a manually wound chronograph. Still to this day, the majority of them made with a plastic crystal to that original specification. And it's a watch that served a purpose and served a purpose extremely well. And I think the other half of that coin is that it had great commercial success because many watchmakers make watches for specific applications. You can think of Rolex with the Explorer 2 for spelunkers. You can think of some of the watches that are designed for like extreme depth when diving. And while many of these are kind of outliers, the Omega Speedmaster is something that people still look for and still really appreciate. And you see collectors who range all the way from, looking at extremely rare vintage models up through modern limited editions. I have a few of those here today. This one of the more interesting ones, and the first one we've seen here at the shop, this is actually a platinum cased Speedmaster with a recreation of the original movement that was put in these watches. This is a modern version of the 321 caliber. And this was a pretty legendary chronograph in its day. It's a column wheel operated chronograph. And it was made to a very high quality, and its accuracy, its durability, its reliability, I think were part of what ultimately made the watch become flight qualified by NASA and to be something that these astronauts were relying on to save their lives in outer space, especially when we look at things like the Apollo 13 disaster. So this one, which was released on the occasion of announcing this new 321 caliber, they did in a platinum case with a black onyx dial with meteorite subdials. So, a good reference to space there with the subdials and just like masterful watchmaking all around. A very impressive watch from Omega. And then we also have the Alaska project here, which is an interesting version of a prototype that was made as they were working on making this watch more resistant to changes in temperature. Because as the watch was being used for these space flights, there's big fluctuations when you go from the cold of space to burning up as you re-enter the atmosphere here on Earth. And so they made these prototypes with these white dials. And apparently Alaska was an arbitrary name given to the product. It didn't actually have to do with the state, but nonetheless, that name has stuck around, and they made this watch in 1,970 examples, and a very cool piece that has become very collectible on the market. Looking at the Speedmaster, it's a chronograph. And there are a lot of chronographs on the market that have equal historical importance. We have the Rolex Daytona, which immediately comes to mind as being the most similar, kind of like if you're going to compare two kind of steel sport watch chronographs with that kind of heritage. But then you also have things like the Breguet Type 20, which is a fantastic design. And of course, you can move into dressier things like, Patek manually wound chronographs, Vacheron, things like that. But I think the Speedmaster, having the significance it does with a very important time in history, having a case size that kind of fits right in between everyone's comfort zone. Put this one on, something that sits really well on the wrist and, gives you the versatility of being able to wear it casually, wear it dressed up, doesn't really matter. Works well on the bracelet, works well on a strap, works well on a NATO strap over your spacesuit. It's really a go anywhere, do anything watch. And I think that characteristic is really what makes the Speedmaster what it is today, is the fact that it is a good design, it is a timeless design, and it has all of that historical importance attached to it. So thank you very much for watching. We do appreciate it. If you have anything that you'd like to share, any ideas for this channel, please do put them in the comments. We are interested in what you guys think, and we hope that you're liking and subscribing.